Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me for this week's episode of When I Grow Up. On today's episode, it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome my guest, Jessica Chong. Hey Jessica, how are you?
Hi, Blair. I'm doing good.
Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I know that like we postponed this, and I just was really wanting to be able to meet with you. So I'm really glad it's finally happening.
Yeah, no, me too. And you guys are going to hear all about it, but um, for those of you that don't know, Jess actually designed the what do you call cover art for the podcast. And right when I talked to you about making it is when you were making this transition, right?
That's actually so true. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
so
that's pretty
crazy. And we're going
crazy.
to talk about that tonight. I just wanted to give you guys a disclaimer. Because I like being real with my listeners. Jessica and I, we did talk about how today was a long day, and both of us are
Hmm.
feeling a little bit tired today. However, like she said, we've postponed before, and I truly did want to listen to your story and be able to share it
Hmm.
with everybody. So forgive us if we're a little bit, if we say something weird, but with that disclaimer, Jess, what is it that you do?
Yes. I just graduated from my master's program in clinical mental health counseling. Um, I also have a certificate in marriage and family therapy. So right now, my my technical title, like ethically, like I'm a pre-licensed professional, but I'm currently in the works of trying to apply for my associate license in marriage and family therapy.
Oh man, that's a lot, I feel like. And oh, you know what? If I didn't say it, congratulations. Truly, truly.
Thank you so much. It feels like it was only 2 months ago, but it also feels like an eternity ago.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And it's been so cool for me to hear bits and pieces of like what's been going on with you throughout. How long was the program?
I completed my program in 2.5 years, and
Okay.
so it can go anywhere from like 2 years to like 4 years.
Okay. And so, you know how you said you got your certificate in mental health counseling. Is that what you said?
My so this is a long story, and it's also a mouthful, but like there's so many ways that you can, get education in mental health.
Uh-huh.
And for my specific program, they used to offer a marriage and family therapy like master's degree. But then because of like regulations and like, just policies and things like that and different boards, they decided to switch it. And basically, I got the education to become a licensed professional counselor, which is like a very like, general, broad kind of thing. Um, but I also got specialized uh, education for marriage and family therapy because that was my ultimate goal
I
was to
see.
get to become a marriage and family therapist. Yeah. So technically, my degree is clinical mental health counseling. But then I also add on the fact that I really focused on marriage and family therapy.
Okay, so with now your new degree, like you mentioned before, you know, you graduated just a couple of months ago with this new degree and
Mhm.
yeah, actually, can you share a little bit of how you were feeling about coming on the podcast before I ask the next question?
Yeah, I was sharing how I was feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome, just like being so freshly graduated. I still feel like I'm still a baby, and I mean, it makes sense developmentally in terms of my career, like where I am. So I know a lot of it is just like, my own thoughts and stuff. But I'm also really excited at the same time because I feel like I have fresh perspective and also my unique story, and being able to share that with your listeners. So yeah, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome, but it's not that much.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I completely understand. Yes, Jessica was hesitant to like come and share with me because she has supported me from the beginning, like the genesis of this podcast. And so she's tracked a little bit of the guests that have come on, and she was telling me, I know a lot of people are seasoned and experienced in their field, which is true. But I also reminded her that for me, it's really important, like you mentioned, the story that you carry.
Hmm.
But also, like, I think it's important to like see each part of the process in a career. And
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
explaining to Jess at the beginning that like um the seasoned professionals that do come on, they oftentimes, if they've been in the game for a long time, they've forgotten what the humble beginnings looked like,
Hmm.
and how it
Hmm.
felt. So I'm excited to kind of hear that part of the process for you, because we have
Yeah.
had an MFT come on before, but she
Hmm.
was
I
kind
actually
of
listened to that podcast.
yeah, she like
Yeah, because I was
changed.
like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, like, not counting anything against her, but I was like, I was specifically looking, for information for like MFT stuff. And I was like, oh, it's different.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not what
Yeah.
you think. But
Yeah.
all that to say, yeah, so I'm so thankful for you and your time tonight because I don't discount it at all. But yeah, so
Hmm.
with all that being said, what I was going to ask you is, okay, so like moving forward, now that you've graduated, what will your um yeah, like your life look like as far as this career, like your day to day, like what's to be expected for you?
Yeah. So, at the end of my internship, like my last year, around the spring semester, like my last semester, I started reaching out to different private practices uh, that were looking to hire on like post grad therapists. And so I did a couple of interviews, and currently I'm at a private practice in Roswell, Georgia. And so I am hired on, it's a team of 6 people. He actually just hired um, a couple of new people this year. But yeah, so it's all of us working together, and my day to day looks a little different every day, just because what my caseload is at, like how many people I'm seeing um, is different right now in this season. But yeah, I'll typically like go to the office like when I have people, and then I'll, if I don't have people, then I don't need to be there. So then it's kind of different in that way. So did I answer your question? I feel like I drifted.
No, that was exactly what I was looking
Okay.
for. Um, uh, okay, I don't know why I'm thinking of all these random questions right now. So I
Yeah.
apologize if I'm all over the place, but something that came to my mind as you were speaking, um, is okay, you are a newer therapist, right? So
Hmm.
I'm wondering like is there a specific age group that's appropriate to like for you to talk to at this like season of your life? Because like I don't know, would it
Mm.
be weird if like a 60-year-old woman came to you and like shared her life with you or are you trained for that?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a valid question to ask. But no, I can see any ages. I guess right now, so kind of backtracking to what I was saying about like the license that I'm pursuing as an associate marriage family therapist. Right now, I am under supervision.
Mm.
So I'm working under somebody else's license technically, and getting guidance and supervision from this therapist. And so she sees mainly adults, and she, uh, but she also has just like been so supportive of like really helping me hone in on the clientele that I want to see.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think right now, like where I am developmentally in my career, it's all about like kind of exploring and like seeing um, what it is that I really feel drawn to, and also just
Mm.
like what naturally like just clicks, you know? Because right now I am kind of like broad, uh, and just like I I'm open to seeing kids all the way to like adults. Um, and I asked her one day, I was like, "Is that a little weird?" And she was like, "No, that makes so much sense. Like you're just trying to feel it out right now."
Mm.
But then there also is that part of like, I actually do really enjoy just like the variation of like being able to see kids because like my background in my undergrad was education. But then I also really value, you know, especially like the young adults slash like even up to 30s. I really, yeah, there's something so special about like that life that I really value.
Interesting. Um, so, uh, oh man, I just lost it. It's okay. It'll come back to me. But okay, so I would love to know. Oh, okay, I remember now. Sorry. Okay. What kind of why would a person come seek your help?
Mm, okay. Um, that is a very personal question. I feel like a very subjective question, but I think if I can speak generally,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I feel like, you know, we all need help at some point
Uh-huh.
in our lives, and therapy and mental health is definitely more accessible now than it was, you know, even like 5, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, But people that come into my office, I think they're seeking healing, and
Mm,
they're just seeking, you know, um, to start that journey for themselves. Even if it is a kid, like you know, their parents oftentimes will be the ones to initiate therapy,
mm-hmm.
seeking out therapy for them. But it's all, yeah, around this like idea of either healing within like their own story or like healing in like relationship.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of broadly speaking. I think that's why people would come see me.
Just because I have my own kids, I'm just thinking about them and like um I think counseling and therapy is very important. Like
Mhm.
and I think that uh I should make the like myself, even my husband, like we should make the space in our lives, I think, to seek out a therapist. And again, not because we've experienced like extreme trauma or but we're just living and we just have stuff, you know.
Mhm.
So I feel
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
important.
We're just all human.
Yeah, it's like so
Yeah.
broken and like but what I was gonna ask you, like why do children go to therapists? If I'm like,
Mm.
I'm sorry for my ignorance, but like, I guess I just felt, is it usually trauma related or?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because yeah, like people a lot of the times will kind of have like a big question mark
Uh huh.
when it comes to like yeah, therapy with kids. And so specifically, I guess just speaking from my
Uh
experience
huh.
this far, my internship, I I was at a private practice in Marietta, Georgia, that specifically um, had a lot of kids and adolescents that came through the doors. And the reasons for therapy, like it was like very diverse. It was
Mm,
like, you know, one of my clients that I worked with came in because they were experiencing a lot of anxiety.
mm,
Um, an adolescent, an adolescent female, and yeah, so she asked her mom if she could start to see a therapist, and a lot of it was related to like you know peer relationships and like even bullying. So there's that. I also saw another teen girl who um, went through the loss of her father that was
Mm.
pretty tragic. So I met with her and got to walk alongside her as she processed her grief. Um, but then I also, at this private practice, they had a high clientele of people like on the spectrum or like that had
Mm.
some kind of neurodivergence. And so I had a lot of clients that were on the spectrum or had ADHD. And so being able to work with them and like social skills,
I
that was something that
see.
I did a lot of during my internship. But currently, yeah, I have a couple of teens that I'm seeing, and generally it is around anxiety. Um, yeah, does that answer
Oh,
your question?
yes, it does. It does. Yes. Okay, so um like I mentioned before, I just feel like people should seek out, some sort of outlet to process things in the form of therapy would be healthy, I feel like for a lot of people. So I guess what I'm asking is like, so I wouldn't bring Eli and Zoe just to like talk about their feelings. Is that like, do you know what I mean? Like there would have to
Mm,
be, because like, I think it's healthy, but then they're not, but do you get what I'm trying to
hmm.
ask you?
Yes, yes. And I feel like I'm also like, we said this at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
I feel very like hazy right now. So I feel like it's taking me a long time to get out what I'm really trying to
No, no,
say.
it's okay.
Keep beating around the bush. And even after I answered your previous question, I was like, okay, I don't think I really explained it fully though, like why kids would come in specifically. Cause like, yeah. Um, I think, especially for, let's say, like elementary age kids, or even like pre-K kids,
Hmm.
yeah, sometimes like there's specific events that have happened in their
Hmm.
lives that like the parents will seek therapy for, but then
Hmm.
other times it might look like the parent is really struggling with like figuring out how to help them calm down the tantrums.
I see.
And a lot of the times, and especially with younger kids, the reason why I am really interested in working with younger kids is because you also have to tackle on um, the whole family system. Like you can't
Oh,
just be the kid. Like you have to talk with the whole family and parents to be on the same page. And so a lot of that is like a lot of like educating and
yes.
having them come in and join in session, and just like creating that bridge, because kids throw tantrums because they don't know how else to um, get across like how they're really feeling
Right,
inside,
right, right.
or if they're like wanting something but like they just don't know how to verbalize it. And so even in therapy with kids, a lot of it is play therapy, which is something that I still learning about and hoping to get more training in,
Yeah.
because like for kids, like they're not just gonna like sit down and like
Right.
talk to you about like
Right.
every thought that's going through their head, or like they're not developmentally, that's not age appropriate. But it's through play and it's through like how they might treat a doll, or like how they might like set up something, and those kinds of things, like that is more so like their language,
That's
and
so
how they express
fascinating.
themselves. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I kind of know that, but just by watching Eli and Zoe, but that's really fascinating. Okay. Um, I would love to know, like, just can you take me to the beginning? Like, I know I want to ask career questions too, but I'm just so curious about, like, yeah, just for those of you that don't know, and you're going to find out, like, Jessica had a different path, for her future, and then it switched. And I would just love maybe even high school. Can you take me back to high school and just
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
there, how your journey kind of unfolded?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So in high school, okay, you know how there's those people that like from like very early on, they always knew what they wanted to
Oh,
be.
yeah.
And like, yeah, like I was the extreme opposite of that. Like I never knew what I really wanted to do. Um, and that has a lot to do with like feeling like so out of place as like, second gen Asian American, and just like really figuring out like who I was. So all that is like interwoven. But yeah, in high school, I wouldn't say that I really knew what to do. But once I started applying for colleges, I I was thinking, to myself of like, okay, like my parents, like typical first gen, Asian parents, like they want you to do something like medical field related, right? And so I decided to do like the pre-nursing track and very quickly figured out that that was not for me because I took a microbiology class and oh my gosh, it was brutal. Um, So then I met with my advisor at school, and we were talking about the different options and like different things to explore, and I had all of these like science courses, and I was genuinely interested. I still am very interested in like biology, um, but yeah, she I think she asked me like, like, what do you like to do? And like, what kinds of places do you like to be in? Like, where do you imagine yourself? And so I just kind of thought about it. And I was like, I mean, I really like working with kids.
Mm.
So yeah, so then that kind of started this whole path of like, okay, I think I'm going to pursue education while at the same time I was thinking about also changing to psychology back then. And so she was like, okay, how about you, um, you know, go ahead and officially switch to education, and then you can take some psychology classes, and like if anything, like you'll have that as a minor, or you if you really decide that you don't want an education, you can switch to psychology. And so I was like, okay, that sounds good to me. And yeah, pretty quickly I um, just really fell in love with my undergrad program in education.
Oh,
I went to
wow.
Georgia State. Yeah. And uh, Georgia State is like very like social justice oriented in their education approach. Like, it's in the city of Atlanta and like all of that. And so yeah, I um just kept going along with it basically. My official undergrad was middle level education. So I actually taught
Oh, wow.
middle school science. Yeah, so that's where science comes back around. And I know I always hear that response whenever I say middle schoolers.
Okay, is that your choice? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. It was because as as challenging as that age group can be, it's also so refreshing to
Mm.
me because of just where they are, like in trying to figure out who they are, um, and their identities. And so, that was like always in the back of my head. Like I like did some student teaching in like elementary school for elementary grades. And it was just like I just could not do it
Yeah.
because like so much like hand holding and like yeah, it was difficult. Yeah, so middle school was kind of like where I guess my sweet spot was, even though it was really
I love
challenging.
it. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
um, and please let me know if I'm like going too deeply into things.
No, there's no such thing. No
Okay.
such thing.
Okay. I'm just like, yeah, giving you my whole life story, I guess, that led up to the change. Um, but yeah, so I, did that. But then in my last year of my undergrad program, I started student teaching and I was like, okay, this is like for real. Like if I'm like student teaching, then I must be committing to this like for forever. Like, it's just very like extreme thinking. Because I had a lot of anxiety about like, my
Mm.
future, and like a big part of my story was like I was trying to figure out what was the most stable thing, financially stable, financially safe, and so I never really allowed myself to dream very big,
Mm.
um, because of that. And I, yeah, so I was just kind of like in this all or nothing mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna push through, and like even if I feel really anxious and like I don't really know if this is for me, like I'm just gonna give it my all. Like God will cover me, like that was kind of my
Yes.
mentality. And it was also, wait, let me stop there. So then and so then I graduated, and I had uh actually, this is a big part. I'm so sorry if this like does not make any
No,
sense.
I'm good. I'm following well.
Okay, are you tracking? Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So let me go back because this is a big part of my student teaching experience as
Uh-huh.
well. I was actually a part of a teacher residency program that was kind of in when I was a part of the program.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Create, and they really honed in on social justice education,
Mm.
as well really trying to fight off like teacher burnout. And
Sorry, can
so
you pause
through,
just real quick?
yeah.
This I can assume what this means, but like could you elaborate what social justice education is?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, social justice education, I'm sure that like things have changed so much, like since
Mm.
even like, even though I didn't graduate like that long ago. Actually, I
No,
guess I
but things
did.
have been changing rapidly.
Yeah.
Like and then it,
Yeah.
it goes faster than you think and yeah, things evolve like so quickly these days. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm sure you're right about that.
Yeah. Um, Basically, it was like your approach to education.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
Okay.
the social justice piece really comes with like how you think about like institutions and systems, that are
Mm,
just around us, like our government, and different policies, like
I
different
see.
things and laws, and how all of that trickles down to how it impacts kids and families. And
Mm.
so that was a really big part of Georgia State's education program, which I'm sure it still
No, it
is
still is.
too.
I know people that have
Hmm.
graduated recently and like
Hmm.
their heart to teach is so it's like it's been like crafted in a way that like they want to be in schools that are, like I forget what they call them. Like
Like Title I
Title
schools.
One, thank you. Title One
Yes.
schools,
Yeah.
things like that, and
Yeah.
like because that's just like where they want to be, and most of them
Hmm.
do come out of Georgia State, the ones that I know. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't think you're off in saying that the program is probably still crafted in that way. But going
For
back to what
sure.
you're saying, you were part of a residency called Create.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so the reason why I feel like this was a pretty formative part of my story is because through this program or through this residency, I participated in, um, I'm going to butcher the name. No, I'm not going to. It was through Emory, and it was called cognitively based compassion training. So Emory's CBCT program, which they are implementing even at hospitals now. Um, and it's really for people that are like within like the helping careers, like doctors, social workers, teachers. And that's where I learned uh, a lot about mindfulness and meditation. And that was like kind of like my first introduction to it. And that actually helped me so much with my anxiety alongside me starting my own therapy journey.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. So, and this was at what part? Like right before you graduated, or
Yes. It
okay.
was in my last year of undergrad. And after I graduated, I still was a part of the residency program because that was the whole like vision of like, 3 years to really help new teachers, new educators, like ease into the transition of being a new teacher.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, there was a lot of that kind of work being done. And it was actually through that work that I did a lot of self-reflection and like thinking about
Mm.
like where my anxiety was even coming from. Um, and like I was saying before, at that time too, I finally reached out to um, my own therapist, and I've still been seeing her to this day. And so that's kind of where that part started. Yeah, so I was in the classroom, teaching kids in the Atlanta public school system. I taught at two different schools. It was the first school after my first year of teaching. Like I was pretty confident that like this wasn't going to be it, but there was that part of me that was like, okay, but I have to make this work
Right,
because
like
this is what I put
yeah,
all my work into.
right. And then I
Um,
I I don't know how you feel. I felt my first year of working that like cuz I didn't like what I was doing either. And I think there was just something innate of like, well, you just gotta push through. Like, like that's just
mhm,
what
mhm,
what quote unquote we do. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you just muscle I mean, work is work. You just do it. But no one I mean, it wasn't until much later that I was like so miserable and it was like someone was like, then quit. Like and I was like,
yeah.
what do you mean? I don't quit. Like but okay, yes. So I don't know how you felt, but was there any of
Mhm.
that too of kind of like, well, I this is what I've decided, so we're just gonna do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That was my mentality. And I was miserable.
Oh my
Like I
gosh.
was like physically sick like every weekend because my body was just under so much stress.
Oh my word. How
Um,
horrible.
it was rough. I'm not gonna lie, it was very, very rough. Um, but at the same time, like, there were so many little moments of just like deep connection with my kids. And yeah, so I taught at one school and then I moved to my second school, which that's the place where I ultimately ended up like deciding to change careers. Um, but I feel like it was I mean, it was just truly like no experience is ever wasted, like even the most painful things, like God will use that and
Mm.
be a part of your story. Like I truly believe that to my core. Um, yeah, I really struggled trying to figure out my like educator identity. But the schools that I worked at, they were very special because they focused so much, again, like on this like more social justice oriented mindset.
Mm.
I worked at actually a charter school, and so I don't know if you know anything about like charter schools versus like general public schools.
I know they're not like public schools, but they're also they're not funded, right, by the government?
So you have like private charter schools and
Uh-huh.
public charter schools.
Uh-huh.
I worked at public charter
I
schools.
see. Okay.
So there was some funding from like the government.
Mhm. But they
Um,
can like do whatever
but
they want, right? Pretty much.
so what a charter basically is like a 5-year plan that maybe like parents or like a different group of people will propose, and they'll say, okay, if we can meet X, Y, and Z goals like within like 5 years, then we can continue to like, I guess, essentially renew the charter. And so that's how
Oh,
like charter schools
really?
kind of operate. I might be like completely butchering that, but because
No, that okay. I mean, but
I feel far removed, but
that
yes.
kind of makes sense. Okay, okay. I see. Okay, continue. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt.
No, no, please. I also feel like I'm talking so much because
No, girl, this
it's
is a
like, yeah.
podcast. Exactly what you're supposed to do.
I don't know. I'm just feeling like silly, goofy, like I don't know,
No, you're
delusional a
doing
little bit.
wonderful.
Okay, okay,
I'm just really enjoying listening to everything. So you're
okay.
doing great. But okay, so you were saying you were working at a charter school. The last school was
Yes.
a charter school, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Okay, okay.
yes. And actually, the first school that I worked at too was also a charter school. And because, they were trying to do something different in terms of like being a school,
Mm-hmm.
they really focused on the social emotional learning aspect of things.
That's
And
great.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like that is like very common now nowadays. But like, yeah, I feel like during like when I was in the classroom, like that was definitely starting to just gain traction of
I
like,
see.
like having a cool down corner, like even learning about like, okay, when I feel dysregulated, like what are things that like I can do, like who's a safe person that I can talk to, and those kinds of things. And
They
so
do that?
I was just well, at my school, again, like, this was, like, a very special situation because, like, they really, like they had, like, a very awesome counseling team, and they even, like, had, like, professional therapists, like, from other like, from a private practice. I think they, like, partnered with that
That's
so that they
amazing.
could see their students. It was really, really amazing. Um, and so kind of going back to what I was saying of like, I really believe that like, no experience is ever wasted and like really God
Mm.
is like God, I feel like showed up in that kind of way of like, I didn't recognize it at the time, but like that was like starting to fuel this like calling that I felt for a long
Sure.
time actually.
Yeah.
Of like entering into like the therapy and mental health space. Because I didn't care about academics. I didn't care about like the curriculum that I was teaching, but what I really cared about was like, how my kids were doing and like where they were at, like what they were carrying and what their story was, and even like their families, like being able to join them and just to like hear them out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So then I'm like taking you through it all again. I'm like, I hope this is
No
not like
apologies
too much.
necessary. It's
Okay.
great.
So January of 2020, I finally decided to take the leap of faith. Um, and because I knew that I felt this calling to do something different.
Yeah.
To I felt in my heart like of really wanting to enter into mental health, but I was also very scared and very
Mm.
anxious because I just didn't really know anybody that like looked like me, that was like in that space.
Mhm.
And so it was just hard for me to imagine like, okay, like what would like that stability look like, as like
Mm.
somebody that isn't very seen a lot of the times in these kinds of spaces. Um, but yeah, so in 2020, I decided to take the leap of faith and I told my principal that I was not returning for the following school year. And then the pandemic happened.
Right. So crazy.
Yeah. And at first, my plan was to just get some kind of like corporate, admin kind of job. But people were being laid off like left and right
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
during that time, because nobody knew what was really going on. And then so I was like, okay, well, that definitely changes plans. And it was almost like I just felt that tug from the Lord of like him asking me, like, can you trust me? Like I've
Mm.
called you to this, like, can you trust me that I'm gonna see you through it?
Mm.
And yeah, and so, I took that summer and even that fall to really think about like what my next steps were. I did like a bunch of like little odd jobs here and there during that time. But I just really started like researching like different programs
Mm.
in the area. And
Mhm.
then and yeah, I just kind of like also took another leap of faith. Like I feel like that was like the full leap.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then that's kind of like where it all started, and then and now here I am.
So fast.
Just kidding.
Okay, but hey, I don't know if I'm sorry if I missed it and you
Hmm.
have to repeat it, but I just wanted to clarify. So, um, after realizing some things while you were teaching, right? Like you didn't really enjoy like the curriculum part of it, but you enjoyed the
Hmm.
relational part of it, and like even just like implementing these mental health kind of things in the classroom, um, and then deciding to switch from education to MFT or marriage and family therapist and things like
Hmm.
that. But like how did you know like you wanted to be a therapist?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. And yeah, thank you for catching that. Um, so man, um, I will just say, and like I know that you said like, don't apologize,
Yeah,
like this
don't.
is like all good. But I think it's also very like reflective of just like the journey of like what therapy is, because like
Mm.
so I would say more oftentimes than not, like a lot of the therapists that are out there, are therapists because of their own journeys,
Yes, yes.
Um, and so, while I was really struggling, like trying to figure out, like, my role as an educator and that kind of stuff, I was going through so much anxiety, like
Mm.
career, relationships, just identity stuff, right? It was like classic like young adult kind of things.
Yes.
Just
So
really not knowing
challenging.
myself. Yeah. And I uh yeah, I sought out a therapist like my first year out of college. And it was really through working with my therapist that he, yeah, just like listened to me and helped me to piece together like the reasons for like why I was like the way that I am, or
Hmm.
like why like what my story was, and like what the experiences that I've gone through and walked through, like how that had shaped me
Hmm.
and helped me to figure out like, okay, but how do I want to define myself? Like how do I
Mm.
want to write my story from here on out? Um, yeah, and so that's um, a really big reason why I just loved the work that like I was able to do so much with her, and then that being like put together with I'm working with all these middle schoolers and like knowing like they're in this like weird identity formation time in their lives and
Yes,
like
yes.
trying to figure themselves out, and then on top of that, like serving in like youth group ministries at like churches, and I mainly served at like Korean American churches and at retreats and things like that. Like just getting to walk alongside like high schoolers, and helping them figure out their journeys and like who they were. It just kind of like all pieced together in a way
Mm.
that I was like, I feel like this is where the Lord is calling me to.
That's amazing. Okay, thanks for clarifying. Um, you did a great job telling your story. I just thought I missed it about when you were talking, but that makes a lot of sense. I feel like, the fact that you were able to have such a positive experience in your own like therapy journey that it in turn you realize, oh, I want the same. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like I want these same tools so that I can
Hmm.
walk alongside all these young people that I've been able to
Yes.
invest in. I mean, I feel the same way. A lot of every time I talk to an MFT, I'm like, do I want to do that? but but then at the same time I'm like, I hate schooling stuff and like I hate going back. But anyways, maybe one day, I don't know. But yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
that's so great. Like that now you are equipped to do that for other people. And it sounds as
Mhm.
though things are going well right now for you, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
do you feel
Yeah.
like good about the decision? Like you don't feel like you did after your bachelor degree, do you?
No, no, no. Yeah. There are definitely a lot of struggle buses that I was on,
Mm.
during my program. But, again, it's, like it's because, like, I feel like grad school was, like, intensive therapy for
Yeah.
myself, because I had to do so much self-reflection and self-awareness
Mm.
kinds of papers and things like that, um, and yeah, it was a lot, but I will say that every moment that I ever felt like, "Should I have done this?" Like, "Should I have, like, drastically changed careers?" And, like, all that kind of stuff, like, every time that I had those kinds of questions, like, I just again, it was like the still small whisper, of, like,
Yeah.
God saying into my heart, like, "Hey, can you trust me? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I have you, and I've got you." And, yeah, and so I just kinda went with that, like, every moment, and I would say that, like, even on really difficult days, like, during my internship, like, when like, there was, like, some pretty heavy stuff that, like, I
Sure.
held with my clients, like, even on those nights, that I would drive back home, like, I would just feel, like, so much fulfillment, um,
Oh my gosh, I
and
love
so much
it. I love that.
peace. Yeah, because, again, it wasn't ever really about, like, "What can I do?" But it was just like, it's just very, it's such a special and, like, sacred space to be in with
Right.
people,
Yeah.
because it's really, like, unfolding, like, certain parts of, like, their most deepest thoughts and, like, what they really think about themselves, and, I think that's where, like, the heaviness can come in because, like, sometimes, things, you know, were because of their experiences, like, they took away certain messages from those experiences, and they might not be true themselves. But, just being able to come alongside, um, clients and their stories and, like, helping them to see, like, okay, what are the things that do serve me, and, what are the ways that, like, maybe this doesn't serve me anymore. Like,
Mm.
I think all of that, is just so, like, it's just so sacred. I don't know another word that can explain it.
No, yeah, I think the way you articulated the fulfillment for you just now, it it opened something up in my own mind and heart. Like I don't know, I was getting emotional because just now
Mm,
because I realized the way that you explained it that you have as a therapist, you have the key to something with people that no one else really has because the person that's walking in is ready. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of people that I meet, I
mhm,
can't like force someone, hey, you should go to therapy unless they want to, like, fix whatever,
mhm,
or not fix, but you know what I mean? Like, like start to work through whatever it is that they're going through.
mhm,
And it is sacred. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you
mhm.
are giving permission to this person to be
Mhm.
150% themselves and not hold back,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
and so for me just now I think I it hit me like, wow, this is that's amazing. You're doing
Mm.
amazing work. And so I am so excited for you. Like,
Oh.
and I think also because I know you in a ministry context as well. We've never
Mhm.
worked together, but we have ministry friends, and I
Mhm.
know just from I watch through social media and when we
Mhm.
get together time to time to talk about things, like I'm excited for our like younger generation community that you get to
Mhm.
walk alongside them because I just think you're going to have so much to offer and then maybe you could share some of those tools with us. Like
Yeah.
that's really awesome. Um okay, so did you want to add anything before I ask you something?
Um, I really appreciate just your words of encouragement.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say that, I have just had so many experiences and just like wonderful like teachers and like mentors like throughout this whole
Mm,
process. And yeah, I just I don't know. I feel like just a deep sense of like gratitude for just like how like, again, like the Lord has really taken me through
yeah,
this
it's
whole
so
process
amazing.
because again, like kind of going back to like when I was in college, like I really didn't have an idea of like what I really wanted
Hmm.
or I didn't have that like sense of vision or like could dream big
Mm,
essentially.
hmm, hmm.
And even now, it is still difficult to imagine like, what my life will look like in like 5 years, 10 years, and things like that. But I think like through my experiences, I've really come to just like embrace like the present day and like just trust in the Lord that
Yeah.
like, okay, like he has brought me along this far. So it might look different. It might be different in the future in terms of like what my official career title might be. Um, but like I just hope that anybody that's like listening to this will like get that sense of like life really is a journey and like
Yeah.
um, you know, um, maybe don't sell yourself short or cut yourself short. And even if you do, it's like there's still so much that like I feel like the Lord is inviting us to experience.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. It really is amazing how much faith you have in that. You know what I mean? Like it's like so it's brave, Jess. It really is. It's really brave.
Mm,
So, thank you for being so transparent with that part of your life. I really appreciate it.
yeah.
Um what about like the practical stuff about getting into the graduate program? Like, are there tests that need to be taken in order to get accepted, or what does that look like?
Mhm. Yeah. So I think I might have glossed over this fact. Um, y Typically for master's programs, like, you need to take, like, the GRE,
Mm-hmm.
and then also get, like, letters of recommendations, or, like, yeah, just, like, people that, like, can vouch for you,
Mm-hmm.
and then also, like, an essay or, like, the application form. A really big reason why I decided to take the leap of faith in 2020 was because they actually weren't taking the GRE anymore, or like they didn't require the GRE because during that time, like just all testing was just kind of like we can't test you, so like everything's open.
Holy smokes, that's awesome.
So I was like, if I don't need to study for like a standardized test, then like I will. Okay, I think this is like
That's
my sign.
crazy. I had no idea. That's crazy. I should have done something.
Yeah, so that was like a huge thing that like led me to
I
actually
see.
apply during that time. I will say that now I think they do require you to take the GRE again. Yeah, I have my own thoughts about standardized testing, but yeah, that is a requirement for higher education. Yeah.
I see. Now that you've graduated, I know I've heard from other MFTs that there is a requirement of hours that you need. Is that true for you
Mhm.
too? Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
what does that look like again?
Yeah. So, it really depends state by state because,
Oh.
there's, like, the state, uh, I guess, boards for, like, these specific, um, divisions. I'm probably butchering this so much, but basically, like, depending on the state, like, they will require you, however many hours of experience.
Mhm.
Um, and so for Georgia's licensing board for MFTs, um, that experience includes like face-to-face contact with clients, supervision, um, like case conceptualization, just like any time that you're doing anything like therapy related, like it's just like all encompassing.
Mm.
But yeah, again, kind of depending on which license that you're like I guess working towards, and have the credentials to work towards, it does vary slightly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, well, we're kind of rounding out our hour together. I'm sure I could
Yeah.
talk to you for days about just life in general, but um I before we close out, I do have a few like kind of final questions that I ask all of my guests. My first
Yeah.
one is, so what do you like least so far about your new career? Like, or the most challenging part for you? Do you
Uh-huh.
have one?
Um, it's writing notes.
Writing this.
Yes, yes. Writing progress notes and, yeah, like after every session, for each client, like I'm writing down like, what the goals that they were working on and like the progress and all those kinds of things. And so just like paperwork
Yeah.
in general, like it's just yeah, not my favorite.
But you like the relational part is why.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Like even like, when I was teaching, I really did not like lesson
Yeah.
planning and it's reminiscent of that, but it's different. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so then what is the best part for you so far?
I think just I'm just so excited just to like it's so cheesy, but I'm just so excited to see people that like walk through my doors. Uh, because again, like I just carry just a deep sense of gratitude because I just
Mm,
never would have imagined myself to be where I am today. Um, so yeah, I think just like getting to walk alongside my clients and then even like really being able to like recently I've had a couple of Asian American um
that's
people
great.
that have reached out like as potential clients and like that was like such like a big desire to be a resource for the Asian American community and like I haven't really done any like marketing or like networking yet, but like already like it's already happening and just to know how I can relate to a lot of like their experiences and then also understand like what their family dynamics are like and just like what it's like to be like a second gen kid or a second gen adult. Um, yeah, like I just feel like it's just so meaningful and I think that's like definitely been one of my favorite parts is just seeing like how like really again like I feel like God has like led all these people to
Yeah.
this to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so amazing. What a gift you are offering all of us. I'm excited. I'm so excited to see what happens. Okay, last question. Um
Yes.
Do you have advice for somebody that is maybe thinking about pursuing a career in therapy,
Mhm.
or like, I don't know, any life advice at all? You know, you just shared how there was a big transition in your life to in your career. Yeah, any advice to offer?
Mm. Um, I think okay. I think specifically for therapy, I wouldn't say this is necessarily a requirement, but it's very helpful if you yourself have gone through therapy before, to really understand the process of therapy. Because I have seen and, spoken to people that, like, had high hopes of, like, going to the mental health space and, specifically, like, counseling and therapy, that didn't fully understand what therapy really is because they were thinking more so along the lines of like, oh, it's just like, help people fix their problems or like
Mm,
just tell people what to do and, like give like them advice and things like that. When therapy is sometimes like, it does require you to give certain advice. But more often than not, it's a lot more about like just listening,
mm,
and helping the client be able to come to their own resolution and conclusions. Um, yeah. So it again, like I'm sure like somebody out there, I'm sure there's lots of people out there that have like, not gone to therapy and are therapists, but like I feel like, if you have experienced it for yourself, like you really understand like
sure.
this how special it is and how
Yeah.
sacred it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about any life advice? Anything at
Oh, life
all?
advice. Um, man, I mean, I feel like I basically gave my whole life story, at least my career life story, Um, and if I could go back or if I could talk to like the 20-year-old Jessica, um, I would reassure her that like um, it is, it can feel overwhelming, like when you're
Mm,
thinking about what you want to do, what you want to be. Um, but at the same time, there's so much life ahead of you that uh, I'm just trying to piece this together.
no, please
There's so
take your
much
time.
life to be lived, and yeah, these every experience like will just lead you to like where you're really supposed to be. Um, yeah.
No, yeah, that's really good. That's really sound advice, Jessica. Need that even today.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, but man, thank you so much for your time and sharing your story so vulnerably with me. I can't, express enough how grateful I am. And even I'm grateful for you not just sharing your story with me, but just saying yes, right, to everything that you did say yes to in times of where there was probably some fear of the unknown. But
Mhm.
listening tonight to you, I too have gained a lot of insight in what it looks like to completely trust God with your life. So I am
Mm.
so grateful for your yes and all that you do. And I'm super excited again just for what is to come. Um,
Oh.
you guys, if you need a therapist, I know a really good one. um, and sorry
You're
to put
too
you on the
kind.
spot, but if there, I mean, not about therapy, but if there's somebody that maybe has
Mhm.
questions about what you shared tonight or any questions about your career, would you
Yeah.
mind me connecting you with them?
Of course, I would love that. Yeah, I feel like that's also just like, helping me to be a resource for people, and that's just like what my heart is about. So
Oh,
I would love to.
you guys, isn't she great? I'm Well, thank you so much. Yeah, you guys heard it here. If you have any questions at all about what we talked about or just want to connect with Jessica, please feel free to reach out to me and I will connect you right away. You can DM me on social media or you can email me at podcastwigu@gmail.com. Thanks so much for your time, Jess. I really appreciate you. Thanks, guys, for listening. Until next time. Bye.